Hello, my name is Stigma, and today I'm going to be making an advanced guide for Smite. It's going to be assuming that you are familiar with the game to some extent, and you've probably started playing ranked, and maybe you're just looking for ways that you can improve. So the first topic we're going to look at is auto-canceling. Some people call it animation canceling, but you're basically just canceling the auto attack animation with an ability input so that you get more auto attacks off in the same amount of time. So it looks something like this. Sisano does this really well, but you can do it with pretty much any god. And if you want to maximize your damage output, you really want to get good at auto attack canceling. There's also a trick you can do where you buffer an auto attack when you blink so that the moment you blink, you hit your opponent with an auto attack. This can be useful if, say, they are under tower and you want to dive them, but you don't want them to be able to react to your blink and they're just like one auto attack away from dying, or maybe the auto attack will put them in combat so that they can't blink away. It's really difficult to do, and it looks something like this. So now we're going to look at Footsies. Footsies is basically staying outside of your opponent's ability range, or trying to go just inside of it, and then backing out to bait out an ability. So I'm going to use Anubis for this example, because he's popular right now, and honestly, the Footsies you're playing with Anubis is going to be his stun range. Turning on the ruler in the settings is actually, it can be helpful for this, because then you can just go into jungle practice, see what the ranges are on their abilities, and just kind of use that to help you with Footsies. So if you're playing against like an Anubis, this is basically the distance you would want to be from him, where that Odin bot is. And when you see him walk forward, you would just walk back a little bit. And as soon as he uses his stun, then you can start walking up and trying to put pressure on him. Footsies is very important, and it can take some time to really learn the distances for all the gods. So potions are really important in the early game, and sometimes towards the mid game as well. If you find that you're running out of mana pretty frequently during the early game, you can just buy a couple potions on whenever you recall. And health potions are honestly, I like to have a health chalice a lot of the time, just for the early sustain if I can afford it, and if I'm not like building into lifesteal. And it actually is very important because you're going to be out sustaining some of the damage they're dealing. Each health potion is 250 health, so it's 10 health per second, which is actually quite a lot. It's about a quarter of Neith's auto attack damage right here. This isn't really a good example because neither of us have items and we're both level 20, but in the early game, it's you can really outplay your opponents just by having a health pot like healing you while you're fighting them. Health pots do not stack with health chalices, but I believe multi-pots stack with health pots. And the same with a Baron's Brew. If you have a Baron's Brew and a health chalice, they will stack. So I'm ticking up plus 10 right now. And now it's 10 and 5, so they do stack. Something that you should get in the habit of doing is checking what types of damage you're taking. You can do this just by pressing T on, that's the default bind for PC, I believe. And this will just sort of show you what's dealing damage to you, so it's the Neith's auto attacks here, and what damage you've dealt. And the number in the brackets is how much they've mitigated. So that's basically just based on their protections. So you can see, let's say you're attacking someone, you can see maybe if you need to build more penetration, or if perhaps more power would be beneficial, or what opponent is dealing the most damage to you, who you should avoid, or who you should focus on, maybe what items you should build to reduce some of that damage. And it's actually extremely helpful, and you should really get in the habit of doing that and using that to inform your decisions throughout the game. Shards are another really advanced topic, I feel. Most of the time, I'll just get either the horn shard or the wing shard. The movement speed and just the raw attack speed from the wing shard are incredibly powerful. The only time I really take the cooldown shard is on, like, say, Merlin or certain, like, burst mages. I could see the claw shard having a use, but I personally just the movement speed and the attack speed from the wing shard are way better. The way that I think about it is in the early game, a lot of your damage is coming from your auto attacks while your abilities are on cooldown. Yes, the horn shard can reduce your cooldowns by like a second, 1.5 seconds, it looks like. But yeah, there's just the amount of auto attacks and the movement speed can let you run people down. I've never used the Carapace shard. I think in theory it's really good because it's essentially just like 20 flat pen for 3 seconds. But yeah, I just haven't used it really. The vision shard is okay, but you can just buy a ward. It's not really... Yeah. I think wave management isn't as important in Smite as it is in some other MOBAs, but it's still good to understand how waves function and how you can manipulate them in your favor. So the first thing we're going to talk about is getting a wave to push into you. The easiest way to get a wave to push into you is just shove it under the enemy tower. So what's going to happen is the enemy wave of minions should spawn, and it should meet my minions before they're destroyed on their tower, and they'll get stopped for a second while they fight the minions. What's going to happen is the enemy minions are going to be closer to the enemy tower than they are to mine. So now, when the next wave comes, the enemy minions are going to start attacking my friendly minions before the friendly minions back here arrive to back up these minions. So the enemy wave is just going to stack up and slowly kill my wave. And it's just going to push into me. This can be useful if you want to do a recall or if you want to set up a freeze later on in the game. I don't really think freezing is that great in Smite, just because there's so much farm in the jungle, or you can rotate somewhere else, or there's a lot of other things you can do other than freezing. You usually end up hurting yourself more than you benefit from it. So as you can see here, the wave is pushed all the way up into my tower. If I wanted to freeze this, all I have to do is just keep some of these archers alive and make sure that they kill my minions. And you might want to thin it out a little bit just so that it's not too big, but that's how you set up a freeze and have a wave slow push into you. The same is true the other way around. If you want to slow push a wave, you can just let the wave push into your tower and just let your minions clash, and then it'll slow push out. I wouldn't really recommend that early game. It is very useful late game though. And so here I'm going to show you how to start a slow push. All you have to do is just kill the archer minions and just walk away. That's all you have to do. And the slow push has been initiated. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to stack, the waves are going to stack on each other and slowly push up the lane. This is useful for if you want to go contest Fire Giant, like you want to go start Fire Giant, because the wave will slowly push towards the enemy Phoenix, and if it's left alone, it can actually pretty much take the entire Phoenix on its own. And not to mention, you'll just have the wave there when you do actually, if you do actually get Fire Giant. Or you could also do this if you want to go push a side lane while your teammates maybe push mid, because then you'll have both side lanes pushing with like a split pusher plus the slow push, and then your team fight in the middle. So it's just a way that you can get pressure on the map without actually being there. So I'm going to fast forward a bit and show you what happens, what it looks like when it gets to the end of the lane. So here we followed it to the enemy Phoenix. You can see it's built itself up to be quite a massive wave. And it's actually going to do quite a number on the Phoenix. I think it takes it down to about half. Like, just imagine if you had a wave of Oni minions in there, or it would just go crazy. So this is a really important skill to understand, and if you can utilize it effectively, it can be very powerful. Another useful strategy is proxying waves. I see this a lot in the solo lane. You don't really do it in duo or mid. All it is basically just going through your opponent's tower and killing the wave on the other side of their tower so that there's nothing they can do about it. If they want to farm, they're either going to have to farm under their tower and lose gold and XP, or they're going to have to tank the minion wave, which is going to deal an astronomical amount of damage to them in the early game. And like in the perfect scenario, you would kill this wave and then either invade the enemy jungle or maybe recall, go rotate mid if you're in the solo lane. Or you could even go around to the Phoenix and proxy in front of the Phoenix, but it's pretty dangerous to proxy in front of a Phoenix. You really need to be someone safe like Tyr or Hades, Vamana. So yeah, proxying can be a really useful tool to understand. So zoning is another really important part of Smite. Just in a moment, I'm going to use a purple vortex ability, and it might look like I missed, but it's actually just to zone off Agni and Heimdall from helping Hercules. And it also forces Hercules to make the decision to stay isolated and potentially be in a bad position or take damage to get away from that. So understanding zoning and how it works is really important. So I think that's it for the advanced guide. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.